Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to our podcast, In the Copy Room. I'm Michael. My co-host Lindsey and I are full-time teachers who are going to spend the next 30 or so minutes talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of teaching.
That's what we're going to do.
But first,
I'm excited.
after our first episode, first full episode, we did have some people reach out to us to kind of give us feedback and talk about some things that they thought were interesting, which we love. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of our goal for the podcast, to have more people doing that. And so if you would like to do that, you can email us at copyroompodcast@gmail.com. That is, everything is spelled the normal way.
Yeah, just like
copyroompodcast@gmail. Yeah.
And we will read every email.
Every single email. And we made a commitment to have a 15-minute conversation about every single
so
email.
Just stay here.
Yeah. So a couple of things that we've read, somebody, just some of them are short messages, some are a little longer, but our friend Amy said that maybe a good word would be grace when we were talking about last episode.
Yeah, so I was talking about the characteristic of teaching that I thought was most important. And I said the idea that you would be able to come in each day and start new with kids and let them learn from their mistakes and move forward and not hold it against them. And so she reached out to us and said that she thought grace might be the right word. And I think it is.
I think it is. She nailed it.
Yeah, I love it.
We had another message from another teacher, Chelsea, who said the better, who talked about how we said the better you are as a teacher, the more you'll enjoy teaching. Mm-hmm. And she just commented how sad it is that such a large percentage of teachers leave so early that they don't get to experience that joy. And that joy may be what keeps them in the classroom. Yeah. And they don't get that. And so, because they just are not there long enough. And that is a bummer.
Yeah, I think it's important. And I think, what we're going to talk about today is going to lead into this. But you are going to get better. You are going to improve. It is going to get easier and more enjoyable the more you do it. So I really like that point that's the tragedy, that we can't keep them long enough to get them to love it.
Yeah. It's like when you're gambling and you're just about to hit it big, and then you walk away from the slots table. Yeah,
and then the next person comes up and
wins the jackpot.
Yeah, like the next year, the person that walks into your classroom.
They're probably going to be amazing. Yeah. We're anti-gambling.
We are, yeah. If you have a gambling problem, please reach out.
We'll put the number in the show notes.
Okay. Gamblers Anonymous.
Yes. And did you want to...
I did want to address the concern that maybe as a highly qualified teacher who, I feel like I have a pretty good resume, that I did not know what No Child Left Behind was. And I just wanted to clarify
big controversy in the copy room world.
I actually do understand that No Child Left Behind was legislation intended to make sure that all students are academically performing at level. But in my mind, when I imagined a child being left behind, they were left behind by a school bus. Yeah, like the other kids who had the academic skills were on that bus, headed to third grade, and somebody was left in second grade without the skills they needed.
I will say that Lindsey was teaching when No Child Left Behind was around, and I bet that she could talk circles around anybody regarding it. So
that's very kind.
But it was enjoyable to make fun of her for thinking about the school bus. Yeah. Today we're going to talk about professionalism. What it is, what it's not, why it matters, if it matters.
I think it does. Spoiler. Sorry.
Okay, well, now everyone's going to turn off the podcast.
Right. But before we get into our topic, I did want to take a minute to introduce our guest educator.
I'm so excited about this one.
Yeah, I bet you are. You really like this guy a lot.
Yes.
As we mentioned, we hope to have other educators on of all different levels and different backgrounds so that we can really get a clear picture of teaching and understand it better and have those conversations. In the meantime, we wanted you to get to know us a little bit better. So last week I was our guest, and this week our guest is Michael.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe we got him on the show.
He's pretty busy, but he was available just in this little window of time. So to tell you about Michael, he has been in the classroom for 10 years. Is that right?
That is right.
That's right.
This is my 10th year.
10th year in the classroom. He's a math teacher at the same school in which I teach, which is how we are. This is his classroom that we sit in to perform this podcast. So it's awesome. He and his wife Michelle have two little children. They're littles. Mm-hmm. 2 and
2.5 and 6 months and one half.
two
and a half and one half.
So if you add them together, they're 3. And Michael is a huge advocate. Like, he really does advocate for teachers in the teaching profession. He has held several leadership positions, including the vice president of our local union, state offices, and even national offices in the National Education Association, just advocating for teachers in the teaching profession. So that's why he's such a great person to be here to talk about professionalism. He's a national board certified teaching candidate, so he's working on that. We're excited for those results to come out.
I'm not working on it anymore. I've already.
We're excited for his results to come out in December. And he loves soccer. He used to be the soccer coach here until he decided to be able to spend more time with his kids. He set his boundaries, like we talked about, making sure that he had time for his family. He loves traveling, and of course, he is one of the most passionate and excited teachers that I have ever met. So, Michael, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Everywhere, we have 2 questions for you. The first question we ask everybody, and so hopefully you're prepared to tell us about the best teacher you ever had.
Yes, I did know this question was going to come up, so I had some time to think about it. I feel like I've been really lucky growing up to have really good teachers. One that really stands out is my 2nd grade teacher, Mrs. Kaplan. And it's funny because when I think back, I don't remember why I liked her so much, but I was in 2nd grade, so like my brain wasn't really functioning a ton back then, but
I don't think that's scientific.
Not so much less than it is now, though.
Okay.
But it was just like, it was fun, and I was learning, and I was doing like my multiplication tables, and there were like prizes if you were doing well your multiplication tables, and of course.
Yeah, that sounds like a dream for you.
I was. So I got pizza a lot. But there was this phone on the board, this magnetic phone that was like her signal to getting kids quiet. And you press the magnetic phone and it made this really obnoxious ringing sound. Mm-hmm. And I loved it. And like, I got to press it sometimes to get the class quiet. And when I was in like 7th or 8th grade, I think she retired. Uh-huh. And we got invited to a retirement party. And when we went to the party, she gave me that phone as a gift.
Oh, that's sweet.
So sweet. I'm kind of tearing up just thinking about it. I had forgotten about that as a memory until right now. Oh. But I don't know, for her to remember that long, like it goes to show like probably why I felt so comfortable and happy in that class.
Yeah.
But I had great teachers in high school as well that inspired me to come back and be a teacher at the same place. So I could talk about them too, but we don't have time for that.
We don't know. But it's interesting that as you were talking about Miss Kaplan and how, she remembered you all those years later. One thing that I love about the way that you teach kids is that I feel like every kid in this room feels like they're important to you and that they matter to you, and you just have these conversations with them that I think they're not getting from other adults. And so I don't know that that's all because of Miss Kaplan, but I think that that's certainly why that identifies. Yeah. Like that experience identifies with you well as a teacher.
So interesting. I never thought about that.
Yeah. Okay. You ready for the mystery question?
I'm excited for the mystery question.
Perfect. The mystery question is, tell us about a student you had that you still think about today.
Okay. I actually have this one locked and loaded. There's 2 students I've had. There's probably more, but like there's 2 students that really stick out, like in my head. And it's not because, well, I'm just going to pick one and I'll tell you about them. Yeah. And maybe the other one will come up another time. I had a student named Genevieve. Mm-hmm. This was, I believe, my 2nd or 3rd year teaching. And absences were an issue with her. This was in the same class that I teach now, where kids struggle a little bit in math, and so they put them in this 2-hour class. So Genevieve was really nice. And she struggled a bit with math, but you could tell that like when she was in class, it was fine. Like she was getting the stuff okay. She was probably like the top half of the class in like ability. Mm-hmm. But attendance issues and really just attendance issues were a problem. And started talking to social workers, seeing what's going on. Turned out that she was technically homeless. And so she was kind of flipping around between her, aunt's house and this house over here. And so sometimes if she'd be with somebody who lives far from the school, she just wouldn't be able to get to school. And so
I think happens to a lot of our kids.
Oh yeah.
And yeah.
And so it made it really hard. But I was really bought into this kid. Like, she was so nice, and I was rooting for her like really hard. And so when she was there, she was getting a lot of attention, and I was making sure that she got the stuff that she missed. No different than I do with any other kid. But what happens next is why this kind of sticks out to me. One day she never came back.
Oh, wow.
That's
not where I thought we were going.
Yeah, she just disappeared. And the way that it works is in high schools, like, or at least here, like, they don't just disappear off your roster completely, like, right away, right? They they're reaching out to, guardians. They're trying to figure out where they are. But with a kid like that, like, who are you going to reach out to?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you find somebody to reach out to, are they going to know where they are? And so a day goes by, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. It's not that notable because she missed so many days.
Before,
yeah. A couple weeks go by and I'm like where's Genevieve? And so, yeah, I never saw her again.
That's the story.
Is this supposed to be a good story?
I don't know. It just feels so sad.
It is so sad, but
it's what stays with you.
It stays with me because, like, you never know how long you're going to have with the kids. Mm-hmm. And so every day kind of matters. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's really dark. Like, I looked her up on Facebook a year or two later when she kind of popped into my head, and I was like, I wonder what she's doing. Couldn't find her on Facebook.
I don't think the kids use Facebook so much anymore.
Yeah, do they not? I should have looked her up on Instagram, TikTok.
Yeah,
I don't know. 5 years later.
Oh, I thought this is a roller coaster.
Good delivery, right?
Yeah.
5 years later, I'm working prom.
Okay.
I take tickets at prom. That's my job.
He's very serious about
I'm very serious about taking tickets.
Do not try to come to our prom without a ticket.
That's a story for another time.
Yeah, sorry.
Checking these people in, there's hundreds of kids that go to prom. So I'm just, filtering kids through. Sometimes parents drop their kids off, and this kid comes up and with somebody. And her older sister looks at me. There's like a little bit, you can tell that recognition in somebody's eyes. Mm-hmm. Do you remember me? I'm like, sorry. Like, you look familiar, but I don't. This was 7 years ago where I last saw her. And she was like, my name's Genevieve. I used to have you as a student. What happens next is, like, very emotional. Like, I explained to her, like, I didn't know if you died. Like, I've literally, like, I haven't forgotten about you. I've been worried about you for like 5 years.
Yeah.
And then she started crying. She probably wasn't anticipating, like, taking her sister to prom and, like, crying at the ticket booth.
Yeah.
But it was just like, it was this really incredible moment where she, like, it meant so much to her. And she explained, like, the things that I did when she was in class that meant so much to her, and she hadn't forgotten about them. And the fact that I remember her now, like, she couldn't stop crying. So I have no idea what she's doing now. Mm-hmm. I know that she's okay. And that she said she got a job and she's working. And so so anyway, that was a little bit longer than we usually go for the mystery question.
But it was a roller coaster, but I'm glad we ended up in a safe space.
Yeah. It was, so I think about Genevieve a lot. Just the fact that, like, these kids have such tumultuous lives, mm-hmm. and I would never understand it, like, because I come from such a different situation. And so
because they keep it together so well when
they really
here.
do. Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing to me sometimes when I'm like, wait, you were dealing with all of that, and you came to school? Like, that's amazing, and I'm so proud of you just for that piece.
Yeah. I see like a sad ad when I'm watching YouTube before class starts, and I'm like tearing up
We're
in
done for the
class.
day.
And yeah, the stuff they go through is just incredible.
Yeah. But I'm so grateful that I have the option to be a safe and stable place for them sometimes.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I think sometimes it's good for our kids to be able to come here and just have this to do and learn. And so it's important. Yeah. So, well, thank you for sharing both your story about Miss Kaplan, who is your best teacher, and about Genevieve, the student that still impacts you today. It's important.
My pleasure.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about professionalism. As a teacher, I think sometimes...
I'm so sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, please.
This is not going to be like professionalism PD.
No.
I feel like when Lindsey was just saying, let's talk about professionalism, I was like, oh my God, again? But I had to... Okay, I've actually... Yeah, maybe one. But it's so funny when you said that. Like I know what we're talking about. Yeah. Like I helped plan this episode, believe it or not. But even when you said it just then, I was like, oh, we got to talk about professionalism again.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. It's not. It's gonna be good. Just
like Michael's story took some twists and turns.
Yes.
We're gonna take some twists and turns from what you expect. But no, I think, sometimes we think of teaching, either people don't see it as a profession. We're always advocating for better pay and better working conditions, and just better support from the public. I think people say often like, oh, we love teachers, we support teachers. But then they're saying in the back of their head, but like, really, I mean, how hard is it to do that job? Or how intelligent do you have to be? How much is there really to know about teaching, as long as you can say stuff and grade some papers? And I can do that. So, so we want to talk about what is professionalism to us. Why does it matter? And what is it not? What do we think is sometimes thrown in that professionalism field that maybe we agree or not agree with? So we'll see where we land on some of this.
And I think our goal is to make this kind of a 2-part episode.
Yeah.
So to talk about professionalism for 2 episodes. And so if anything we say doesn't vibe with you, or if your school does something different or something good or something bad, send it our way. copyroompodcast@gmail.com, and we'll make sure to talk about it next episode.
For sure.
So what is professionalism?
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about this, as you're aware, because you were in that conversation. And I said that the most important part of professionalism for me is recognizing that teaching is a craft that can be honed, and that you will work on throughout your career, that you will get better, that you're always striving to try new things, and just really see it as something that that's like a skill that you can sharpen. And there'll be times when you feel really effective and times where you feel really ineffective, and a lot of times in the middle where you feel sort of effective. And then you take that data, you take that experience, whether it's anecdotal data or hard data from your test scores, and you work with it and you become better. So to me, that's what it means to be a professional teacher, is to treat it like something. Like I would, if I was going to be a professional basketball player, I wouldn't be like, well, I play basketball, once. I don't know, how often do basketball games happen? Like
a bunch.
Yeah, I play basketball a bunch against other teams. No, I'm working at it. I'm learning about it. I'm training,
It is yeah. I mean, you see this with with laws being passed and all that stuff, but it's you can't teach because you've been in a classroom before. Mm-hmm. That's not how it works. And the problem with teachers not being treated as professionals is people think that. And so you have, certification requirements that are dropped, and then you have people coming into classrooms, because let me be clear, you can be in a classroom with students without that. That's not a problem in a lot of places because there's such a teacher shortage.
Just I could be on an NBA basketball court in the middle of the game, but I don't think that would be the best for everyone involved.
Or probably best for the other team.
The team would really like that. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's that we'll talk about the teacher shortage problem another time probably, but
I think it's even a problem in our own classrooms, in our own schools, when other teachers don't view themselves as professionals.
Yeah.
When they're not thinking it's important for me to improve, and I think that happens.
Yeah.
And the more that we hear from the public, or that idea that it doesn't matter, that certification doesn't matter, comes into our schools, the more that's going to spread. And it makes it harder for the rest of us to do our jobs.
I agree. All right. Give me your your hot take on professionalism. That's how we should do this.
My hot take on professionalism.
Yeah.
My hot take on professionalism is that it does matter how you dress at work. I think that's probably not a very popular take among educators.
I do wonder what the split is.
Yeah.
Because I truly believe I'm the educator who does not agree with you. So let me ask, do you think you think if you wear jeans, and might I just add for our listeners,
it's Friday,
that Lindsay's wearing jeans right now.
And I was a terrible teacher today.
So you think if you wear jeans, you're not going to be as respected by your students if you're wearing like a nice dress?
I think if I'm wearing jeans on a Friday and I'm wearing my Spirit t-shirt, like, I think that's different. But I think if I show up to work every day in jeans and a t-shirt and a messy bun, then I'm not conveying that I care about being here and putting my best foot forward. So I do prefer to, even on jeans days, like a lot of times I'll get kind of like, hey, it's college teacher day. Why are you wearing teacher clothes? And I'm like, well, because A, I don't really like jeans, but B, because I want to put forward that professionalism, that idea that like, hey, I'm here. I take this seriously. It matters to me. And I want it to matter to you. Now, does that mean that every teacher that wears jeans is not, they don't care and they don't, want to be there? No. But I do think I expect my students to take their work seriously and to put their best foot forward in my classroom. And I want to do the same for them. It's part of the whole package.
So I disagree with you.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that's as much of a hot take as you think it is.
Oh, really?
I wonder, I would be excited for people to reach out to us and say, like, I agree, I disagree. But because I truly believe that if I came to work every day in nice pants and a button-up and a tie, that I would receive no more respect from my students than if I was wearing basketball shorts and a t-shirt every day. I went all the way to basketball shorts, by the way.
That's a big stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't even know that I think that my students are going to like consciously be like, yeah, Miss Peterson, she really cares about us more.
Look at how nice she's dressed.
Look at how nice she's dressed. She's wearing a dress. But I do think it helps me sort of feel a little bit more elevated and professional and like I said, kind of be the part. But I also do think it maybe subconsciously or, sends them that message that I'm here for my job and my job matters to me and then you matter to me. You're worth getting dressed up for, kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're going to really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think a real problem with teacher dress code on campuses, though, is the inconsistency in which it's enforced.
I can see that.
And I think, like many things, it's a rule that's used to kind of mess with teachers who admin already doesn't like.
So it's a way for an administrator to say, like, they're paying closer attention to those people because they're looking for anything they can.
And if they're trying to like build a paper trail and document, then that'll be one more thing that they have. Whereas like a teacher like you, golden child at the school, Lindsay would come to school in her bathing suit and they would be like,
thank you.
All good, Lindsay. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
It's more important to have you in the room than a sub.
That's not true.
So, I think that.
Well, then I think it leads sometimes to like conflict on the campus, right? So like we see that sometimes where it's like, hey, I noticed that this person's wearing shorts 2 days this week or jeans on a non-jeans day or whatever the issue is, but it doesn't seem like anyone talked to them about it or, it doesn't seem like anyone cares. And then, I don't envy admin's position to have to enforce those things. But I think if we're going to set a dress code and have an expectation, then it can lead to sort of morale issues if we don't enforce them.
And I think both of us understand that there are situations where you should be allowed to wear athletic clothes. If you're maybe I should speak for you. Like the dance teacher, PE coaches.
Yeah.
What you don't think shorts on them either?
No, I'm fine with shorts on them. They can dress appropriately for their job, right?
It is interesting how it has bled into teachers who also coach.
Right.
I've noticed.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm coaching an athletic event at 4:00, so I need to wear my shorts.
We get out at 2:30, by the way.
Yeah. So I'm gonna need to stay in these shorts to be ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk on teacher dress code.
Yeah.
But I think people care. So hopefully they'll let us know what they're thinking.
Yeah.
So we have so much to talk about with professionalism.
Yeah, I feel like I could talk about professionalism for 30 hours more, let alone 30 minutes more.
Yeah, yeah. So we do want to have a two-parter on this because we think it's important. And we want to talk about what some of the things that maybe we also agree on or don't agree on about what it is and what it isn't. So we value your time enough as professionals to stick to our tight timeline and keep it to 30 minutes. So we're gonna shift our gears now and come back to professionalism next week. Share with us your thoughts, your hot takes on dress code or professionalism in general. And we're going to move on to our Why I Teach moment.
For those of you who maybe this is your first episode that you're listening to, thank you for being
so
here.
Much to the copy room.
If it's your first time in the copy room, you may not know that at the end of every episode, we do the Why I Teach moment. And so this is something that it's kind of a reason that we stay in the profession, that keeps us going, those things that keep our batteries charged. And Lindsey and I alternate every week. It's Lindsey's turn.
Yeah, it's my turn. And we'll also have our guests when they come. They'll be able to share their Why I Teach moment if they want to. So we're excited. So my Why I Teach moment this week is about a student I have named Jonathan. And so I have this junior class this year that's pretty small and just a really fun class. It's very boy heavy. But because it's such a small class, I've really been able to get to know the students a little bit better maybe than I would in a larger class. So thanks to the master schedule for that happening. But I have the student Jonathan, and I think actually one time we saw him out on campus and he was wearing like those baseball player Oakleys, mirrored Oakleys, and you said something about like how cool he looks, and I'm like, he is a cool guy. He's real quiet. Like he's an interesting kid. He wears those Oakleys and he carries a Mickey Mouse backpack. But he's like a really cool looking kid.
Sure.
But he's so quiet. He doesn't say anything. And if I don't ask him to pick his head up, he has his head on his desk almost all the time.
Nice.
Well, sometimes he's eating chips.
Oh.
So he has a couple different ones. But I started just sort of like becoming interested in him because he was so quiet. And so, when he came in, I would say hello to him and just try to like push him a little bit, or when we're working on something. I think he's the kind of student, and I look back at his grades, who always just sort of skates right under the radar, just gets a D so that nobody bothers him about his grades, turns in the bare minimum. And I think we have a lot of kids like that sometimes, that if you can just get maintain a 65%, then, you're not failing. You're not even really in danger of failing.
Right.
Nobody's going to bother you, but you don't have to do that much work.
Yeah.
So we read The Crucible at the beginning of the year, and I would sometimes sit next to him while we were reading and just like make sure he stayed with us. And at the end of it, my students have to submit all of their work before they can take the final tests. Like I don't give the test if you're not ready. So that's one of the things I've been working on. And I think that's new for some of my students. They're used to just like not doing their study guides and then showing up on test day and being like, oh, I'll see what happens. So he was a little bit behind the class and he hadn't gotten his study guide done. And so he came in after school one day and worked on it. And I said, okay, you can take the test in class tomorrow. And so he was like, all right, fine. So then the next day he came in to take the test, sat in the back of the room, and just quietly took the test. And I was looking over everybody's scores, and because somebody had asked, what was my score? What did I get? We were going through it a little bit. And all of a sudden I noticed that he had the highest score in the class
Oh my gosh.
on that test. And he had said to me just a minute before, like, I finished, and I was like, okay, how do you think you did? And he's like, just kind of like this shy little like shrug, you know? So when I saw that, I was like, I just looked over at him, and he like looked at me, and he just started laughing. And I was like, Jonathan, that's the best grade in the class. And he's like, yeah, it's fine. I like the book. And, I mean, just like, so whatever, like, who cares? And it was just the most adorable thing. And it just really, like, he's such a great kid with like, I don't know, I just can see something in him that's just so sweet and kind and good. And I hope that other people can see that too. And I'm a little bit sad because this particular class, because it's so small, is being broken up and sent to other teachers that semester. And so I'm going to get a different group of kids in a different hour to try to help balance the master schedule a little bit. And I'm so worried about him just doing the same thing. He doesn't have an A in my class right now. He has a C though. He turned in his Crucible essay too.
Up from a 65.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, and so I went to the teacher that's going to get him, and I said, listen, I love this kid and I need you to love him too. And I know it's not going to stand out as something that that you're going to see maybe and think like, oh, this kid's so fun and so great. He's not this big gregarious personality or, you know, whatever, but I just need you to love him too. And so, I think that really helped me to just recognize, I do love working with those kids that sometimes just, you know, you and I both teach those lower level freshman entry classes. And so a lot of those kids either are used to being not welcome in a classroom because they're difficult and their skills are behind and they feel like a teacher doesn't like them, or they're used to just kind of skating by under the radar as best they can. And so I love working with those types of kids and just like helping them know that they can be successful and that they do matter and build those relationships.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds like you really made a difference.
I mean, at least when the kid knows the Crucible. Like, I don't know what else he's going to know in his life, but I kept him with us for the Crucible, which is an important social commentary play. So
I'm sure it is, but you helped him be a little more social and confident as well, which will pay dividends.
Yeah.
That's it for episode 2.
I can't believe it.
Episode 3 is going to be professionalism, part 2. As a reminder, if you have any questions, comments, you want to interact with us about what we've said, anything we've said today, reach out to us at copyroompodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, we're going to be here in the copy room.
See you next time.
See you next time
In the copy room.